Okay.
Over to Marty. Yep.
All right. Hi. We really want to welcome everybody in this dark night. I'm not used to it yet. I don't think any others of us are either. So we certainly got two important speakers tonight. And so I want to just whip through a few announcements, and then I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker and then our main event speaker as soon as we're done with that. So first of all, it's time to renew or join Chesterfield Township Democrats. The dues are only $25. You can pay them on our website. You can mail a check to the address that's on our website, whatever you want to do. But your dues help us to continue to provide these events at no charge to our audience. And it will, as we approach 2022, it'll help us support some Democratic initiatives to try to get Democrats elected in Missouri. We're not going to have a holiday event as we have customarily, again, because COVID's not quite gone yet. But we'd like you to think about how much money you would actually have spent on that hamburger and a few beers or whatever, and take it instead and donate to one of the charity type volunteer organizations that we've had. And you'll get a newsletter in about a week or so. We'll list them all with links of the people that we've had. So you'll be able to then take that and make a donation, and that would make us all really happy here. In January, we will start up again. Maybe we'll be in person. We sure hope so. But we're going to be having Representative Paula Brown of the 70th District speak to us about diversity in teaching. She's a former teacher, so her perspective will be really valuable. And then we'll hear from Missouri Jobs with Justice for the volunteer opportunity that month. So first of all, I'm going to turn it over to Helena Webb. Helena Webb, a lot of you probably know her because she ran for House District 100 right here in Chesterfield. And unfortunately, the demographics are leaning too Republican for her to win. However, she's not been sitting home. She has been very active and continues to be active. And her latest initiative is an innovative digital initiative that targets areas with previously low voter turnout in order to inform them about the work Democrats are doing that have already impacted them in positive ways, with hopes that they will then go ahead and vote to keep that coming. So Helena, I'm going to turn this over to you and turn my video off, and you're on.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I want to thank the Chesterfield Township Democrats for letting me be the opening act tonight. And I'm going to share my screen so that I can sort of walk through some slides with you. This is going to be about 10 minutes, so I'm going to go a little bit quickly. This can take 10 minutes. It can take an hour, so we're going to go with 10 minutes. But I think you'll get the picture, and I'd be happy to answer questions when the time is right. So for anybody who hasn't heard about Claim Your Power, what is it? This is a Democratic branding and voter engagement campaign, and our concept is that we need to do a better job growing the Democratic brand. We need to expand our voter base, attract new Democratic voters, and encourage increased participation by low frequency voters. We all know this, okay? But what's different about this is that we have decided that we need to take a more proactive role in the digital world and in the media world to improve our brand awareness with voters and people who are not yet voting, young people and people who haven't registered yet, who still may do that. It was founded by Tiana McGaw and myself. Tiana came to me with some information that her son and nephews and their friends enjoyed receiving a stimulus check, but had no idea why they got it, and that Democrats made that possible. There's just a lack of awareness generally for people who aren't like us and involved in these political groups and paying attention. And one of our early supporters is Russ Carnahan, and he basically agrees that, really we should be doing this across the state. Candidates like me who run for office barely have enough resources and time, frankly, to reach out to likely voters. That's the main strategy. Reach out to likely voters, get people to the polls who are going to vote. But that's not expanding our voter base, and they don't have the resources to do that on their own. Somebody needs to step in, and that's one of the things we want to do. Is this voter registration? No, but we are supporting the efforts of those who register voters. There are a lot of people, great groups on the ground doing a lot of really good work. We are not trying to take their place or do better than them. We are trying to provide them with support, an overlay of messaging that's happening around people so that when they get asked to register to vote, maybe they will, and maybe they'll actually go vote. So what are we doing? Better to show than tell. So I'm just going to start our display ads. You can I'll talk over some of it. Hopefully it'll play. Hold on a second. Okay. So these are our, can you guys see this? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, great. So these are display ads. They don't move. They're digital ads. They're programmed so that they will appear on the devices of targeted individuals. And I'll tell you how we target people later. We started with a lot of folks who are elected, but we also want to invite real people to participate. So here we go. Six seconds is short.
Your vote is your power to make a change. Claim your power and vote in every election. And when you vote, vote for Democrats because Democrats fight for you. Missouri voters have the power to change the future. Claim your power, register to vote, and vote for Democrats.
I think it shows power as an individual that one person can really make a difference. There was a time where people like me couldn't vote. And so now that we can, I just want to take advantage of that and make sure that my voice is heard at every level possible so that I can even invoke the change that I want to see in the world one day.
I'm Terry Wilson, and I'm proud to be a Democrat because Democrats work for you.
Justice for George Floyd was really important to me. I'm not sure that we would have gotten justice if the Attorney General of Minnesota was a Democrat and an African American. That makes me think how important voting is. From now on, I'm voting. Team your power.
Paid for by Conversations Missouri, Kristen Weber, Treasurer. And our ads, if clicked on, go through to a website which provides information about key issues and voting rights. Yinka Folletti did a program actually for Planned Parenthood, and we were able to repurpose some of that that was just about voting on our website with his permission and with Planned Parenthood's permission. So thank you, Planned Parenthood. So that's basically what we're doing. So we're just trying to show what we're out there doing. I'm going to try to stop this program. We have social media. So we need you to go to our Facebook page, claimyourpowermo.com, like our page, like our ads, share our ads. They're as posts right now, and we've taken a little break from putting some of them up while we've got more ads running out in public. I'm trying to exit this. Can't seem to get out of here. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so that I can hopefully regain control of my computer. I think this might be because we're on live streaming. So having trouble with this. Sorry, guys. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing, and you might notice there's a target audience. We are trying to address some shortcomings in advertising towards and messaging towards the African American community. Tiana, who has come on, who started this, we wanted to start in her community, test this method, get some data, make sure it's going to work, and we would like to spread it outward into other areas of Missouri. We have people who are sort of interested in that. It's all about money, of course. And I guess that's basically it. I have data on how many ads we've shown, but I'm having trouble with my PowerPoint right now. So I guess I'll just take questions instead. But just so you know, our data shows that our ads are performing extremely well. They're performing, our display ads are performing at double the average click-through rate. So when people are going to click, they click on it and it goes through to our website. And our video ads are running about 50% above average. So average is 60 and ours are running anywhere from 60 to 90. So we feel like we're doing really well and we're reaching out to people. We want to expand, but we're starting with people who we feel have been taken for granted, and we don't want to take those folks for granted anymore. So I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Helena. In fact, I've seen some of those data screens. Maybe while Yamelsie is speaking, if you can stay in the Q&A, maybe you could figure out how to share that screen, because the statistics of those who are clicking on through were really significant when I saw your other
Thank you.
presentation.
Yeah, I will try to do that. I'm just my everything's frozen on my screen here, so
okay.
I will attempt.
And the other thing I remembered that was so important is that you're able to do such a reach with this using your money judiciously.
Yes,
it's just incredible to be able to get the kind of numbers that you're reaching for the amount of money that you're doing. So anyway.
we are working with a very good vendor, and quite frankly, we are trying to copy some of the best practices that Republicans have been using, and get our message out there as well as theirs. We don't want them to be dominating the messaging. So thank you. Okay.
Well, great. Now I'm getting ready to, and will introduce Yamelsie Rodriguez. I'm so proud. For those who don't know, I serve on the Planned Parenthood board. I also serve on the legislative and political committee. And so I'm very proud of my work there. It's the primary thrust of my retirement, because I protested back in the 1968, and here we are. If somebody had told me I'd be protesting for women's rights and civil rights over 50 years later, I would have thought they were smoking something. Of course, we all were back then, but I never would have believed it. So without further ado, I want to tell you about Yamelsie. She is president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of the St. Louis region in Southwest Missouri. Under Yamelsie's leadership, PPSLR has expanded its scope and care under the most difficult environments at an affiliate that straddles a geographic region between two realities. One state is on the brink of a post-Roe scenario, and the other state where reproductive health champions have shown us how good policymaking can transform our patients' lives. Before taking on this role in Planned Parenthood in Southwest Missouri, she served as the chief operating officer at Planned Parenthood of Illinois. Yamelsie brings a wealth of experience in innovative and patient-centered healthcare delivery models that adapt to the evolving needs of our communities in which our health centers serve. So Yamelsie, you are on.
Thank you, Maureen. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be with you all tonight. When we set up this discussion months ago, I don't think any of us thought that we would be at a crisis moment for abortion access in our country. So I appreciate the opportunity to let you know a little bit about the future of abortion access. I want to thank also Helene and Tiona for all the work that you're doing. I want to hold on to that tagline of claim your power, and we're going to come full circle at the end of my presentation of why that it's so important. So before I get started, let me just make sure that I can share my screen. I just have a couple of slides to help guide our conversation today. So, and I'm just going to turn off my video just to make sure that we don't run into issues with the screen freezing, as we've learned through 18 months of just a lot of Zoom calls and meetings. So what I want to talk to you today, and I think this graphic really depicts our agenda for tonight. We want to keep you, although I know that you're all in the loop and following closely what is happening with abortion access in our country. We're going to just recap how we got here, what are we supposed to be doing, where are we going, and how are we going to get there. So where are we? I think that a good way to summarize this is that we are at a crisis moment for abortion access in our country. And how do we get here? I don't think that you're going to be surprised to hear me say that this is just the culmination of anti-abortion politicians and activists' decades-long plan to outlaw abortion. We know that steadily they have pushed harder abortion restrictions. They have defunded essential community health centers and programs. They have stacked the federal courts to ensure these policies stay in place. And I think a lot of the time people ask how did we got here? I would have never believed that in my lifetime we could see abortion access completely eroded or overturned. But for those of us that have been in the movement for a really long time, we've been raising the alarms, and it really started with the Trump administration remating the courts with over 150 anti-choice judges. So basically 1 in 4 judges in the circuit courts, it's now in Trump appointee. Then we saw the shift in the balance of the Supreme Court, and now they have a 6-3 conservative majority. We saw over 25 abortion bans enacted in the country in 2019. And I think this next bullet point just really hits what we're going to be talking about today. There were 120 abortion restrictions introduced in 7 years. In 2019 alone, they introduced 306 abortion restrictions during the time of the Trump administration. We also saw the implementation of the abortion gag rule, and that culminated with a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade that the courts will be hearing as early as December 1st. Or not as early, on December 1st. Oops, I'm having some problems moving through the slides, so just give me 1 second. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this year, it's not even over, and already in 2021 has passed previous records for abortion restrictions at the state level. 19 state legislatures approved a total of 106 laws, and that's just through the beginning of October, limiting and in some cases essentially outlawing a constitutional protected right. This is the first time the country has seen upwards of 100 restrictions in a single year since the Supreme Court issued its landmark decision in Roe v. Wade in 1973. And although Texas, which as we will discuss in a little bit, introduced that extreme step of financially incentivizing private citizens to sue strangers on the suspicion of aiding and abetting abortion, that may feel to all of you as the most obvious example of this trend. It isn't even the leader in the abortion legislation. So believe it or not, that title goes to Arkansas, which placed 20 new limitations on abortion this year. And those measures include an outright ban on abortion, except when a pregnancy endangers a patient's health. We know that a federal judge has blocked that law from going into effect. That it's followed by Oklahoma, closely behind with 16 restrictions, including a trigger law that would automatically make abortion illegal if Roe is overturned. And that's why that makes this year's onslaught of aggressive legislation especially alarming. As long as Roe stands, abortion is legal up to and until viability or longer if the pregnancy threatens the life or the health of the person carrying it. With that precedent in place and reaffirmed in various decisions over the years, we know that policies that narrow access often run into legal challenges that prevent them from enforcement. But on December 1st, the Supreme Court is set to hear a case involving a 15-week ban on abortion in Mississippi. Given the court's 6-3 conservative majority and its recent refusal to suspend Texas' unconstitutional 6-week ban, many fear that the bench will either undermine or completely overturn Roe. And I think we also have to remember that Roe has always been the floor. And even weakening Roe will open the door to anti-abortion lobbyists and lawmakers who are already pushing Texas ban styles in other Republican-leading states. The annual drumbeat of new abortion restrictions, it's what gave a lot of momentum and paved the way for abortion bans like the one we're seeing today in Texas. And this situation did not come out of nowhere. It's been decades in the making. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through a reminder of some of the laws here that we're facing and that are enjoined. And then we'll look at the two other cases. So in Missouri, I often tell people that we are providing abortion services on borrowed time. There is a web, as you can see on your screen, of medically unnecessary laws that make abortion inaccessible. And that is especially true for people of color, people with low incomes, and people who live in rural communities. Missouri has a trigger law that will ban abortion if the Supreme Court overturns Roe in the Mississippi case looms over us. So does a court decision regarding Missouri's 8-week abortion ban, which may come down now any day. Any of these court cases could end what little is left of abortion access in more than half of the states in the country, and that also includes Missouri. Let's talk a little bit about the infamous now Texas 8-week abortion ban. For those of you that are not intimately aware, SB 8 bans abortion after 6 weeks into a pregnancy, and that is before most of the people know that they're even pregnant. It creates a bounty hunting scheme that encourages the general public to bring costly and harassing lawsuits against anyone who believe has violated the ban. The Texas bans abortion once cardiac activity can be detected in the embryo. There is no heart at this stage of development, only electrical activity in developing cells that starts at about 6 weeks before many women even know they're pregnant. The Texas law also and crucially forbids the state from enforcement. Instead, it uses citizens and incentivizes citizens with suing anyone who performs abortions or aids and abets them. This unique formulation makes the law very hard to challenge in the court because there's no single entity responsible for the enforcement. Effectively, and unfortunately, nearly all abortions in the state of Texas have been banned since this law went into effect 69 days ago. As you may have seen in the news, the Supreme Court refused to immediately block the law, but in an unusual move, the justices agreed to fast track their consideration of appeals for the Justice Department and abortion providers in Texas, and those arguments were heard November 1st, so just a couple of days ago. Now, what's looming ahead, it's the Mississippi case. So on December 1st, the Supreme Court is going to hear arguments on a Mississippi law that it's a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, setting the stage for what could be the most consequential abortion rights ruling in decades. So what is the Mississippi law? This law makes most abortions illegal after 15 weeks of pregnancy. And it includes a very narrow exception for medical emergencies or severe fetal anomaly. The law was enacted in 2018 by the Republican-dominated Mississippi legislature, but it never went into effect because of an immediate legal challenge that led to a federal appeal court blocking its enforcement. Why is this case considered so important? Because in recent years, Republican-controlled states have passed similar legislation only to have the law struck down in appeals courts because they were in conflict with the precedent created by the Supreme Court. Those states, including Missouri, were vying for the chance to be heard by the court, especially after the retirement in 2018 of Justice Anthony Kennedy, a cautious supporter of abortion's rights. Mississippi's appeal of the lower court ruling sat on the Supreme Court's docket since the fall of 2020, about 1 month before Justice Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed. In May, the court, with its new 6-3 conservative majority, agreed to hear the Mississippi case known as Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. Dobbs is the name of the state health officer, and Women's Health Organization is the only abortion provider in the state of Mississippi. In its brief to the Supreme Court, Mississippi asked the justices to overrule Roe v. Wade and the court's 1992 decision in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which said the states could not impose an undue burden on the right to abortion before fetal viability. The court probably will not rule on this case until June of 2022. And if the justices were to approve the law, Roe's viability standard would no longer be the law of the land. The Supreme Court has reversed its own positions in various legal cases about a dozen times, including several in the 16 years that Justice John Roberts was appointed or has been appointed, and that was back in 2005. I think the question that I get asked all the time is how likely is the court to overturn Roe? And many experts say that Roe faces its stiffest test and that it is in peril. And some even argue that change is about to come with regard to abortion. Many people think that the Supreme Court it's actually going to overrule Roe v. Wade. Many experts believe that the Supreme Court would not have waited over a year to take the case only to strike down the Mississippi law and simply reaffirm what lower courts have already been doing in abortion cases for a long time. The justices have turned down other state appeals over pre-viability abortion bans. It could also focus on other cases like Casey and find that the 15-week cutoff does not place an undue burden on those seeking an abortion. Such a ruling arguably would not present a wholesale overturning of Roe, but if the Mississippi law stands, the ruling could give states greater latitude to limit how and when abortions are performed. So what could happen after the ruling? If the court moves to overturn Roe, about a dozen Republican-controlled states already have so-called trigger laws that would make abortion unlawful almost immediately, and more could follow quickly. In Texas, for example, Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, signed a law in June that says nearly all abortions will become illegal in the state 30 days later if Roe is ever overturned. Doctors who then perform an abortion there could be sentenced to life in prison. Conversely, 15 states and the District of Columbia have laws to protect abortion rights without Roe. Their policies usually bar the government from interfering with the right to obtain an abortion before viability or to protect the health of pregnant women. So the slide that you have in front of you right now shows you the current abortion access landscape in the United States. And I think that is just a clear visual that while abortion it's legal currently thanks to Roe v. Wade, there's many laws and restrictions that vary by state and create an undue burden and make patients navigate a web of unnecessary restrictions to even access that care. That in theory, it's still legal everywhere in the United States. So the lighter the pink shows how accessible and easy it is to access abortion care. And right now you can see that it is almost impossible, even on the road, to access abortion if you're a person who lives in the Midwest and the South. And this slide shows you what would happen if Roe is overturned. If that happens, over half of the states will no longer provide abortion, and that will leave 36 million women of reproductive age living in a state that is poised to ban abortion. All of the access will be basically decimated from the Midwest and the South, and patients will have to travel hundreds, if not thousands of miles to the next state where abortion is secure. And for that in the Midwest, it's Illinois. And this other visual shows you the predicted decline in abortions 3 years after Roe v. Wade is overturned. Further bringing the point that abortion has always been a right in name only for people that are low income, people that are undocumented, people that don't have the ability to travel long distances. And this will have a rippling domino effect that will displace people in places where abortion is still accessible as more people try to travel to another state to get access. So I can't stress enough that this is not just a Texas problem. This is everyone's problem. And Planned Parenthood of the St. Louis region in Southwest Missouri will play a critical role, and it's already playing a critical role in the future of abortion access. As Maureen alluded earlier, PPSLR straddles a unique red state, blue state reality. RHS, as you know, it's the last abortion clinic in Missouri, one of the 26 states poised to ban abortion if Roe is overturned. And we also have an abortion clinic in Southern Illinois where laws like the Reproductive Health Act of 2019 solidified abortion rights in a post-Roe reality. I'm also really happy to share that last week, the last abortion restriction and the only abortion restriction that was left to take off the books in Illinois was lifted with the passing of a new law that reverses the parental notice of abortion that limited people, young people specifically, from accessing abortion care. Over the 36 million women of reproductive age who live in a state poised to ban abortion, our predictive models show that at a minimum, 14,000 of them coming from Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee will be turning to Southern Illinois for abortion care. In fact, this is already happening even on the Roe. Since September 1st, we have experienced a surge of patients coming from states neighboring Texas as Texans fill up appointment times in those states. Recently, one Kentucky patient, 10 weeks pregnant, told us that she didn't have 3 weeks to wait for an appointment because she could only afford a medication abortion, which has an 11-week limit. It is a devastating ripple effect that underscores that this is just not a Texas problem, and that if Roe is overturned, it will continue to worsen abortion access around the country. This is some of the predictive modeling data that was released at the end of October by the Gottmacher Institute that really points to the devastating ripple effect as people will have to travel hundreds of miles to the nearest abortion state where access is protected. And this predictive model shows that if there's a total ban on abortion, the increase of people of reproductive age driving to Illinois will increase by over 8,700%. And you can see on your screen that distribution of the number of people of reproductive age by state where abortion will be banned, traveling or needing to travel to the nearest state, and that is Illinois. So we would need to increase significant capacity in order to be able to provide care for the potential hundreds of thousands of people that will be traveling to Illinois. And this graphic just shows you the percent increase if there is a 15-week ban. So that is what the predictive models show in the event that the Mississippi abortion ban it's allowed to stand. So I think this underscores that we don't have to guess what a post-war world looks like, because that day has already arrived. If you're a patient with low income, if you live already in one of the 90% of the counties in this country without an abortion provider, and that day almost certainly has come if you're a patient who lives in Texas. But let me be clear, this is not just a Texas problem, this is everyone's problem. Ohio and Florida already introduced SB8 copycat bills, and Missouri Republicans have announced plans to introduce the Texas-style abortion ban, which will put a bounty on all of us helping patients access abortion. Banning basic health care, including abortion, it's racist, it's ableist, and it's sexist. This is about power and control. Power over who gets to make decisions for you, for your body, and for your future. Racist and discriminatory policies like abortion bans and insurance bans target people of color, people with low incomes, immigrants, and young people. When we lose control of our rights and our freedoms, our future, it's no longer ours. So together, we must fight back against assaults on our reproductive freedom. Governor Parson and his Republican leaders have created this dystopian reality for the 1.1 million women of reproductive age who live here in Missouri. But I have hope, and you should too. And here's why you should have hope. Because of your voices, your outrage, and your fight, reproductive health services of Planned Parenthood in the Central West End, it's still here. You march in the streets, you called your elected leaders, and you protected what little is left of abortion access in our state. And friends, it is time to do it again. Now is the time to get loud. We are part of the 80% of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, independents, religious and non-religions, who support keeping abortion legal. We are the majority. In fact, support for abortion access increased by almost 10% in the last several years. So let's make it clear that banning abortion will come with political consequences for politicians hell-bent on harming women, people of color, and people with low incomes. We won't allow an assault on our rights and our freedoms without a good fight. So I want to end up today, before we open it up for questions, by saying here are some things you can do. So to Helene's point earlier, it's time to reclaim your power and we need to get out and vote. You can also volunteer with Planned Parenthood and become a clinic escort. You can donate to abortion providers and lift up and donate to the abortion funds who at this critical time are doing everything they can to help financially support people being displaced from their home states and traveling to seek abortion in another state. It is important for you to write letters to the editors. Contact your lawmakers, please, and tell them that you oppose any and all further bans and restrictions on abortions. Share news content and call to actions on your social media platforms. I think that Helene already told you the power of that. Really important for us to share your abortion story. Abortion, it's normal, it's common, it's basic healthcare, and you should educate yourself to help combat abortion stigma. And I would be remiss if I wouldn't take this opportunity to tell you that we need more people to run for office. So I want to thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for your continued support, for standing up, not just for Planned Parenthood, but for the communities that we serve. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions or help clarify anything that would be helpful.
Thank you, Yamelsie. You just did a great job of summarizing where we are and what we need to do, hopefully. And I feel like we do want to open up this session now to questions and answers. We've got two experts here, one on abortion and one on digital voter reach out. So go ahead. Are we just going to have people raise their hands, Brian?
That's fine. And we have about 23 participants. It's okay if people want to come on and since we can't meet in person, it'd be nice to see people's faces. So it's okay at this point to unmute your video if you'd like, but do not unmute your audio. Let's keep those mics muted so we don't have any interference. And then raise your hand either physically or the little raised hand will work fine. Thanks.
And I see a raised finger right there, and I don't see a name for everyone to hear. So please introduce yourself.
Karen.
Hi.
Go ahead, Karen.
Do you have a talking point sheet that could be shared as we communicate with our legislators or even some of our colleagues who are maybe on the fence?
Hi, Karen. Thank you for your question.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you again.
Always great to see you, and thank you for always standing for reproductive freedom and reproductive rights. I didn't get the last portion of your question. I know that you're asking about some talking points.
Mm-hmm. You know, what to say to people, have, those difficult conversations. So do you have some talking points as we share this information with people that are on the fence or think that they need to be an anti?
Yeah, I mean, yes, Planned Parenthood has lots of talking points. I think we should start with just understanding that abortion is common, that 1 in 4 women of reproductive age will have an abortion in their lifetime, that abortion is one of the safest medical procedures, that, half of the women that have abortions already have children. And that if we really believe in reproductive freedom, you cannot be totally free if you don't have the ability to control your future, to control when and how and if you want to become a parent. And that is why it's so important, and it has been so critical, especially in the wake of SB8, to see a lot of people in the reproductive justice movement sharing their stories of abortion, to really put a face to the people that are ultimately affected when these laws are enabled. Because what we know is that the haves, like people that have privilege and have good incomes will always find a way to travel to get to a place where they can seek the care that they need. And if we believe in equity, if we want to see improved health outcomes, then we need to ensure that people who do not have those means are still able to access the care they need, and they're not forced to bring children to the world that they're not ready to support or care for. So those are some of the things, but I'm happy to send some additional talking points, and I can send them to Maureen and she can share them with you all. Does that
Thank
help
you
answer
so
your
much.
question?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen, for your question. Do we have some more questions here? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So who has another question, please? Wow, I'm surprised there's not more questions here.
Can I
Okay,
make one
so
more
I'm-
comment?
Go ahead, Karen.
I wish we could, in the conversation, separate all the other services that Planned Parenthood does versus reproductive health services. You know, if that could be part of the talking points, that all the other things that you do.
I appreciate that, Karen. And well, you know, I would be remiss to say that we are proud to provide abortion care, that abortion care, it's part of the full suite of reproductive services. And Planned Parenthood of the St. Louis region provides both. A very small percentage of what we do, it's abortion care, but it's really critical and needed. But the rest of the services that we provide go from, you know, birth control to sexually transmitted infection testing and treatment to your normal well person exam, cancer screening. So that is the majority of the care that we provide. And over the last 2 years, we have very proudly also expanded access to healthcare for the transgender community. So we also provide gender affirming hormone therapy so people can live authentically. And we're expanding that care to all of our locations. So just not only in St. Louis, but also in Southwest Missouri, so in the other Joplin and Springfield health centers. And Diane, I think that I see your hand raised.
Yes, I was wondering, are you going to be looking for people to drive people to Illinois or?
You know, I think that it's important for us to understand that what we have seen in the wake of SB 8 is that people are facing incredible challenges preventing them from accessing care out of state. Definitely transportation, it's one of those big barriers, especially if you are low income, if you're a struggling individual, if you don't have a car that you can rely on to travel hundreds of miles. And this is the work, and I want to take this opportunity to lift them up, right? Like, this is the work that the abortion funds have been doing for a really long time. They have spent decades connecting patients to the resources that they need, whether that is financial resources to cover the cost of the procedure, to accommodations, transportation. And this is an all hands on deck moment where we need to think about how can we not only provide the services and provide abortions, but think about what I would call those wraparound services, so people can actually make it to the appointment. So that is a good question. There's a lot of organizations, local and national organizations, Diane, that work through some of those logistics to arrange transportation and other care for individuals that may need it.
So Planned Parenthood isn't going to, if push comes to shove, you don't see Planned Parenthood organizing that sort of transportation.
I think that certainly under my vision and my leadership, we are looking at all avenues to ensure that people get the care that they need, that they figure out a way to get transportation. So I think that this is a moment where we are really figuring out what is the future of abortion access, what role does Planned Parenthood have to play, and how do we do that by lifting and connecting and supporting people and organizations that have been doing this work for a really long time. So right now we're learning from them, who have the expertise, and we're hoping that they will let us know where can we be most helpful in ensuring that patients have that wraparound comprehensive services that they will need to make it to a state where abortion is secured.
Okay, thank you.
We have Bob Pickard with his hand up.
Okay, so I don't exactly have a question, but Helen, I wanted to tell you, I really love those ads. It made me feel really good. I like the tagline, you know, Democrats did that, and I think it's kind of the reverse of you didn't build that, because it's positive. So I'm really pleased with that. I think that's the right approach.
Well, Bob, on that note, Helena, did you, while people are thinking of more questions, Helena, were you able to find that slide that showed the high hit rate?
Yeah, let me get that.
Because it was impressive.
Yeah, and I updated it. It's actually, yeah, I can share my screen real quick. So we have about 50 different ads running. They're very similar. Some of them are variations on each other in different lengths or formats. We have, am I unmuted? I just want to make sure I'm unmuted.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Our display ads launched first, and most of what we did in September was display and a little bit of video ads running. We ran for 2 weeks in September, and we had almost 74,000 impressions. This targets most of North County. We're targeting people who are not registered to vote, young people, and people who are registered to vote but did not vote in 2020. So there are some people who voted for Barack Obama and who have not voted since. And we need to bring those people a message, a reason to vote, and we need to inspire them to vote. So those are the folks that we're targeting now. Everything's a matter of money. We would like to expand our targeting and expand our area. But for now, this is what we're doing to launch. Excuse me. We added video ads and some audio ads in the last month. And as you can see, I'm going to cough now. This is how many impressions we had in October. Almost 164,209 impressions. That means, the amount of times an ad appeared on someone's device. Our click-through rates, our vendor is amazing, and they provide us with a lot of data. Our click-through rate, which is if somebody either they can accidentally tap it or they can be tapping something to go through. We always have a call to action on our ads. If they click through, they will be sent to the website and we can retarget them. The click-through rate that we are having right now is amazing. It's 0.45%. The average click-through rate is 0.15. So our ads are reaching people and they're resonating. That's what we know from the display ads. From the video ads, this is also amazing. We can tell how much of a video, this is only part of the data. We can tell if they watch 25% of the ad, it's 50%, 75%, or if they watch the whole ad. And that's a 6-second, 15-second, or 30-second ad. We have a large variety of product out there. And so you can see that of our impressions, so this particular set of let's say here, this particular set of of videos, and they are placed different places, so they have different frequency of running. But they had 1,200 impressions. The click-through rate was 0 on this one, so people weren't clicking through to go to the website, but they watched almost 80% of the ad. So, and the drop off was not that significant as far as I'm concerned, so if you have 1,200 people starting to watch it, and you still got almost 1,000 people watching it by the end, they're interested. And that message is there, and it's all about repetition. And that's what the Republicans have been very good at, is repetition of simple messages, clear messages, giving people a reason to vote for or against someone. And so we're basically, launching our own positive. It's mostly positive because we want to speak to people's issues, what's important to them, and we are not fear mongers, and we also only speak the truth. But we think there's enough there, and we think there are reasons for people to vote for Democrats. We tackle a bunch of different issues, but we're trying to stay mostly focused on the bread and butter issues that people are noticing right now. And so that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really, these statistics are really impressive.
Yeah, and we hope to, we do have a list from the Board of Elections that we started with of registered voters in the areas that we're targeting, and we will go at the end of the initial campaign, which is about 4 or 5 months. We will take a look and see if we have had some extra traffic in terms of voter registration, because we're always offering that. But we know it might take somebody 10 ads before they decide to register to vote. Or if they have already registered and they haven't voted, we just want them ready to vote in April, and ready to vote in November, and ready to vote in August. So this is what we're doing. Thanks, Bob. It's good to see you.
So we've got maybe some new people. Would you have a question? Someone who's already been here? So am I to think that we have no more questions or comments or opinions, because I don't want to end this too soon?
Paul and Sue. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, and then we got Dennis. Yeah.
Go ahead,
maybe
Dennis.
I thought Paul and Sue had their hand up. Yeah. Yeah.
Who goes first?
Are y'all ready, Paul and Sue? Or Sue?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay.
I have a question and more, I guess, a question and a comment. First of all, that, because we know that 80% of the population, 80% of the citizens in this country are not wanting to ban abortion, there has to be a downside for the other side, for the politicians. And I'm a little bit gobsmacked that we are at the point we're at, because I would think they understand the peril of pushing a position that is so unpopular with a majority of the populace. So I guess my question is, what is going to be the downside if in the worst possible case Roe is overturned? Then there has to be a downside.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if there's been any silver lining of what has been happening in Texas, is that people finally are paying attention. I think a lot of people thought that the reproductive rights movement was calling wolf, that there was not going to be a way, right? Like Roe, it settled precedent. It's never going to be completely overturned. And then it happened. And we've seen people outrage. And we are seeing young people really taking the lead. I think hopefully what this will bring, it's more people reclaiming their power and voting and running for office. But the other thing that we've learned, and we've known this for a really long time, all of these fights are fought at the state level, right? So this is why it's so incredibly important that we have people, to Helena's point, like running for office. And I would say that we have seen, and this is what we struggle with, right? If support for abortion access is at an all-time high, what is the issue? Do we have a democracy issue? And I think what you're going to see us talk a lot about is that we cannot talk about abortion rights in a silo, because we do not live single issue lives. And this is why intersectionality is so important, because all of those issues are interconnected, and a lot of those issues are what it's going to motivate the electorate to show up, right? So that's why Planned Parenthood supports the fight for, raising the minimum wage, to have a living wage, why we support reforms that will make people's lives better, why you would see us, showing up for others, just like other social justice organizations are showing up for the reproductive rights movement. But that is exactly what we've been trying to figure out, if abortion access is at an all-time high. And it's 80%, but we also have to be clear, right, that a lot of that electorate feels that it should not be completely overruled. And then that's where you have a wide range of people feeling it should only be accessible in the cases of rape, incest, or health of the mother, to the other side of the spectrum that truly believes that in order for people to be truly free and thrive in their lives, then abortion should be protected and accessible in all cases.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Following up on the what if, I mean, we've heard some discussion in the past of what ifs if the Roe versus Wade is overturned, that, the back alley abortion, those kinds of things. I guess I'm also curious in terms of what Planned Parenthood's contingency plans are if Roe versus Wade. That's certainly been the perceived major service, even though, as you've indicated, it's not a major, it's only one of many. What happens to Planned Parenthood? What's your contingency planning if it's overturned?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that question, and the short answer is we are not going anywhere. Right? Particularly this affiliate has been working even before I got here. We saw the writing on the wall when additional restrictions started to be imposed, making abortion access almost inaccessible for people in the state. Clearly, this state of Missouri wants Planned Parenthood to be gone. And unfortunately, what they're not thinking about is the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be affected by those decisions. We already know that the safety net, so all of those federally qualified providers and other providers have already said we don't have the capacity to step in and serve people if Planned Parenthood is no longer a provider in the state. So we've been working for years on this, and this started with the foresight and forward thinking of opening a large facility in southern Illinois that it's just 13 miles across the river, where we offer the full suite of reproductive health services, including abortion. We, over the COVID-19 crisis, we accelerated the implementation of telehealth services. So telehealth services are a great way to expand access, specifically in rural communities where there is a desert of providers. So we're reaching more people than ever before and meeting their needs where they are. We're advocating for those policies. So right now, after the COVID crisis emergency ends, we are working hard on the advocacy side to make some of those waivers and restrictions that have been lifted on the provision of telehealth services permanent, and working through pay parity to ensure that those services are sustainable over time. But I think Planned Parenthood locally has a plan. We've been through I don't know what else we can be, right? Every time, every legislative session, the states tries to figure out a way to defund us from participation in the Medicaid program. And what I mean by that, it's really blocking patients, right, from accessing their preferred provider of choice. And, you know, we continue to see patients for those 2 years wherein we were not able to get reimbursed for the care that we provided. And I think that we still stand by that decision, that we're going to continue centering patients in decision making, that we're going to continue to push back and press forward. And we have a business continuity plan to ensure that we are here no matter what. And a lot of that, it's thanks to, you know, the generous support of people that believe in the work that Planned Parenthood does, but more importantly, in just ensuring that those that are most marginalized and oppressed and face the biggest hurdles to care are still able to get it. And that's the only way where we're gonna hopefully get to a place where, you know, we have health equity, certainly in our region, but hopefully in our country too.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ah, there you go. You're next.
You're
Whoops, we
muted,
can't hear
Norman.
you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I think he's trying to unmute.
I'm trying to, yeah, I'm trying to
Good.
find
Great.
my voice. I appreciate Ms. Webb and that program. I'm optimistic that's going to help. This is for Ms. Rodriguez. Getting back to the trigger law, is there any way of getting around that? Do a vast majority of Missourians favor banning abortion in Missouri, or is there a reasonable chance that enough people, if given a chance to vote and perhaps through an initiative, they could overturn that?
I think that you just hit it on the nail, that, you know, a way to try to repeal some of those trigger laws, it's just figuring out the possibility of a proactive reproductive rights or freedom ballot initiative. I think that we are considering and have been considering all options, including what is the feasibility of that. And you know, I think that we need to do some more work to understand where the electorate is and what the messaging needs to look like, to see whether or not we could be successful. And then it's a matter, to Helena's point earlier, it's all about raising the funds and just the millions and millions of dollars that we would need to put forward. But I would say, you know, Illinois was there years ago, right? And over the last 10, 20 years, they repealed all of those trigger laws that were enjoined. And as I said in my presentation last week, they just removed the only restriction that was left, and that was the parental notice of abortion. So I think, you know, I think there's hope. I think that if there's a moment where people should be outraged and really take it seriously, it's now. Do you have a question, Helena, or comment?
Yeah, I do. I've maybe this is happening, but I don't hear about it. You know, one of the very effective tools the pro-life movement has used, anti-abortion movement has used, is lawsuits. And I feel like there's not enough women suing the states for their rights. And I'm just wondering, you know, is there a reason that we don't see more of that? Or maybe it's happening, but we don't know about it. It just seems like the anti-abortion movement has used lawsuits very well to reach the courts, right? To reach some of these decisions. And I'm wondering if we can do the same thing.
Yeah, I think when it comes to abortion, right, I think part of the issue is, and it's unfortunately, right, that people will have to go out and share their stories very publicly and sue for something that it's basic healthcare. So that's why when we bring litigation forward on behalf of the patients that we serve to just protect them and not have them have to go through that process. I would say that the other thing that we are really reviewing and studying, it's all the lessons learned from Arizona, right, and Georgia, and is there a path? And of course, it could take, years, and years that maybe we don't have, but certainly we are taking from the national office all of those learnings and developing a scalable strategy for all of us that live in red states. And Karen, do you have a question or comment?
Karen, you're never quiet. I see you trying to speak.
No, I'm just thrilled to have you here and sharing all this information. And I love the idea about suing, but the real power is now with the courts. And we really do not have much control over that. And we've seen that in Missouri numerous times, that 62% of our constituents have voted in, Medicaid and then the legislators just tear it apart. But the courts are so powerful.
And I think one of the judges we have doesn't really even believe in birth control, Yamelsie. What was that last young judge that Trump appointed?
I mean, I think as I alluded to earlier, this has been the strategy of the anti-choice movement for decades. If there's something they're good at, it's just their investment in the long-term gain, right? So maybe taking some losses here and there for the long strategy. And I think all alarms went off when Trump had an opportunity to just appoint so many judges and then to get the picks at the Supreme Court level. We knew that that was just going to have a devastating effect for generations to come. But I don't want us to leave this discussion thinking that there is no hope, because I always believe that the power of the people, it's always bigger and stronger than the people in power. And we're definitely seeing that, and we have seen that, and that's what continues to give me hope. But we need to, we need to be loud. We need to be out there, and we need to have a strategy. And those are all the things that we're working on and have been working on for the last couple of years.
I can tell you
our
from
voice, our vote is our power. And we
Yes.
really do need to do a much better job of not just getting people registered to vote, but getting them to the polls and using the power of their voice.
I can tell you that the affiliate here is very strong. The people we have serving on the board, when I first joined, I was like, oh my gosh, these people are like really, really incredibly, a lot of talents, skilled and have a lot of talents. And we are all tight to make, everybody's working as hard as they can at the affiliate level, whether you're staff or whether you're board, to make this happen. It's the front focus of everyone who serves Planned Parenthood. So we've got that as a very positive thing that keeps us going. And then we've got Yamelsie, who was just an incredible find as a CEO. We did a search. Oh my gosh. And I just have to tell you a story that 6 months after she was hired, she thought she should give an update to the board about what she's thinking about. And we sat there and said, oh my God, this woman, how did she figure all that stuff out, strategy, and do it in 6 months? And so we are so happy that we have you, Melzy, and confident that you're ready to take on whatever you need to do and lead us to keep Planned Parenthood very viable here. in Missouri and of course Illinois.
That's
So thank you for that.
That's very kind, and it's certainly not just me, right? Like it's
A competent
team
staff. You've got a
effort.
phenomenal staff. You
It's-
really do.
Yes.
Yeah,
You really
it's
do
the
have a
staff,
phenomenal staff.
the advocates, it's the donors and all of our stakeholders. And Karen, to your point about voting, we also have to make it easier for people to vote, right? Like
We're trying. We're trying.
I think that's the other thing that
Yeah,
we
the
need.
voter sabotage that is going on nationwide, and we really need to call it what it is. It is voting sabotage.
And in fact, Women's Voices is having a, this coming Thursday,
Yes,
Right.
this Thursday.
about voting sabotage. So it'd be good for us to look at that and see, you know, what we can do. So. And in terms of one quick thing politically, maybe many of you don't know that we have a very active phone banking organization when candidates run or issues that we support. Very active, good phone banking with state-of-the-art digital equipment to be able to do it well and to do it efficiently. So that's something else we do that a lot of people may not know. So, well, if we don't have anybody else, I think we could probably adjourn.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you.
Of course, thank you. Always a pleasure talking to you all. I hope to see you soon. Stay safe, and hopefully next time I'll get to see all your faces.
Yes.
Then, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Be safe.
Bye-bye.